Hey, I've tried to record this video multiple times, and this has just gotta be the last time I attempt to record it, so I'm going through with this version, however it turns out. It's really not easy talking about this, especially as someone who I try to keep a lot of my relationships personal and private. This includes my familial relationships to my romantic relationships. I try to keep it to myself and I try to keep it personal and private because it's just something that I feel that no one really needs to know the details of what goes on in my personal life. As a streamer, so much of your life is public knowledge. A lot of people know a lot about me. You know, things like my favorite color or favorite ice cream or the movies I have and haven't seen. So people know a lot about me in these ways, but for relationships that really are close to me, I want to keep those private and I want to be as private about them as possible. The only times that I feel the need to talk about anything that's in my personal or private life is if it pretty much directly affects the stream in some way. And when I tell you that this previous relationship that I'm going to talk about impacted my stream, it really impacted my stream a lot more than I was letting on at the time. And I did talk about this in stream the other day a couple of times, a few streams actually, just kind of here and there, mentioning a few things, but I really just wanted to get this off my chest, really talk about it and get into details about it here in a video, just so that everyone was on the same page when it comes to what happened. If you have been a part of this channel for a little while, or maybe a long while, you would probably remember that I was pretty open about one of my previous relationships here on the platform. I'm not gonna name names. I don't think it's really important, especially if you're newer here and you're just coming across this video. I don't think it's important to mention who it was. Initially, when I first got into this relationship, there were a few red flags, but I just chose to move past them and kind of ignore them, in which now I look back in hindsight and I'm just like, why did I do this? But I mean, it is what it is. It happened and I can't take back what happened or the actions that I chose. But pretty much from the beginning, I was made to feel as though I needed to become public with this relationship, with my stream and my community, despite my desire and my expressed desire to not have it be that way. It was something that I had spoken to them about in the very beginning of the relationship, and I said, you know, this is something that I do, and I just don't feel comfortable being open about a relationship to my community. It's just something that I like to keep for myself, and you know, in case there's anything that happens that just happens just between us, and you know, it doesn't affect the stream because it's a separate, to me it needs to be separate. Like, I have my professional life and then I have my personal life, and I like to keep the two worlds separate, and that's how I explained it. But it would always, whenever this conversation would happen, it would always devolve into basically, well, you only want to do that because you're ashamed of our relationship. You're ashamed to be with me. And so it became a lot of like, well, are you just ashamed to be my girlfriend kind of thing? And as someone who, I'm starting to learn, I have a lot of people-pleasing tendencies that I'm trying to work through and address. I definitely, especially with someone that I care about, I don't want them to feel as though that is the case. And so a lot of times I feel like I have to kind of like prove myself to them and prove, you know, that that's not the case. That's not how I feel. here, let me show you. And so I did eventually cave in and decide to go public with the relationship. It didn't start out obviously with the community at first, and it started with, at first, you know, my impalers, letting them know, and then of course that wasn't good enough, so then I got pressured into to let the community know. And so what I'm basically trying to elucidate with talking about this is how dangerous manipulative people can be and how controlling this relationship was. I know a lot of people didn't realize what was going on because, as I said from the beginning of this video, I keep a lot of this stuff to myself. I don't feel like it's necessary to let people know what's going on in my personal life, or even in my romantic relationships. That's no one else's business but our own, like between me and my spouse. So a lot of people didn't realize a lot of what was happening behind the scenes until fairly recently, when I decided to be more open about it. One of the stories I talk about in stream the other day was how I needed to turn on my fan because it was getting really hot in my room during those days. It was during the summer, and I usually turn on a fan before stream starts to keep my room cool so that I'm not burning. I've got like 3 monitors, a PC, 2 lights, and it can get really hot in my room if I don't have a fan going during the summer. So I had forgotten to turn it on before I started stream. I was running late, and as a streamer, we feel the pressure to get the stream started as soon as you press that go live button. You don't want people to be waiting. And so I was just rushing, and I sat down and I started stream, and as I was starting stream and saying my hellos, I realized, oh no, I forgot to turn on the fan. So I told my community at the time, you know, like, hey, I forgot to turn on my fan. Let me go turn it on real quick. I got up, I turned on my fan, and then I sat back down and I continued with the stream. I typically don't like checking messages during stream. This was another point of contention in this relationship. They felt that I was almost obligated to check their messages during stream because they took it really bad if I didn't respond to their message. They would take it personal, think that I was ignoring them. So during the stream, a message popped up from them, and I was like, oh great, what's going on now? As terrible as it sounds, but like for real, like a lot of times I'd see a message pop up and I'd be like, at some point it became a panic because it wasn't always like a good thing, like, oh, I love you, or I'm so glad to see you, or you look so good today, or you look happy. A lot of the times it was negative things, and this time it was a negative thing. It actually ended up becoming a huge argument because I had gotten up in the middle of stream and shown my backside to stream. They were mad that I had shown my ass to the camera, and that you know, that I had gotten up in the middle of the stream and turned around and people could see my butt, and it was a big deal. And I was panicking because I was wearing shorts that day because it was hot in my room. And so I really honestly thought like maybe one of my butt cheeks was hanging out of my shorts, and I panicked. I was like, oh my god, did I just like flash my butt cheeks to my community? Like, that's not what I want to do. That's like a fear of mine, honestly, is like having something like that happen. So I was like in a panic during the stream, and once stream ended, I reviewed the VOD, and it turns out that was not the case. My ass cheeks were not hanging out of my shorts. The issue actually was just, as confirmed by this person, the issue was just that I had gotten up and turned my back and you could see my butt on camera. Even though it was like fully clothed or anything, it was a big issue. And the issue became more diluted into, well, you know, I don't want people, you know how people are, I just don't want them just, you know, I guess he was just worried about people like fapping to my butt or something. Like I honestly don't know where the logic was. I couldn't understand because I'm like, as I told him, I was like, I can't control what other people do over something that is as innocent as me just standing up and, you know, my butt is just happened to be in frame. They were just kind of like, well, you know, I'm not comfortable with it and it really made me uncomfortable and blah blah blah, and you should respect that. And I'm like, okay, I understand that made you uncomfortable. And as someone who I really try to find the middle ground whenever I am in a relationship with someone and something comes up like this, I tried to find that middle ground, and the solution I came up with was, well, maybe I'll just put on the BRB screen whenever I need to get up. Would that be acceptable? And it was acceptable. And so that argument ended, but it was one example of how much this person would police my content, to the point where I would post something to TikTok or to Instagram and they would know and they would review it, and if it was not to their liking, an argument would happen from it. In fact, this is one TikTok in which we had a huge argument over, and I was literally forced to take it down because they were upset that I was making a video, a duet with this guy who has his shirt off, and like, how would I feel if they decided to do that as well? And I just was like, good for you then? I don't know, like I couldn't relate. I honestly couldn't, but I wanted to be understanding and I wanted to help them feel more comfortable. And so I was bending over backwards a lot in this relationship to make them more accommodated to everything that I was doing. If I didn't greet them in chat in a way that was satisfactory, if I didn't seem exuberant to see them as much as I was exuberant to see someone else in chat, then that was an argument. It would literally be an argument off stream in my DMs about how I treated so-and-so so much better than I had treated them. And it was horrible. It was really a difficult relationship to maintain. And I maintained it for so long. It was like over a year I was in this relationship for. It really wore me down. I notice now when I look back at who I was and I see how I am now, I picked up a lot of bad habits from this relationship that I'm addressing and trying to either eradicate or replace or smooth over or what have you, whatever it is. But I developed a lot of, I guess you could say, issues from this relationship. Once the relationship was over, I really went into self-destruct mode. No one really noticed. Even one of my streamer friends who I was reconnecting with even said, you know, I didn't even realize that you were self-destructing in this point of time. I thought you were just trying new stuff and seeing what worked for you. In a way, yes, that was the case, but in retrospect, when I look back at the behavior, I know how I am as a person, and I didn't want to do anything related to Twitch anymore because it all reminded me of that relationship. It was very hard because, like I said, my behavior had to change to accommodate this person, to accommodate this relationship. And I suddenly became more self-conscious about things like how exuberantly I greeted someone, or how I said things or presented myself in such ways that could be taken badly, or, you know, misused by people who only want me for sex and things like that. Like, these were things that were drip fed to me in that year or so that I was in that relationship, that once I was out of that relationship, I was still very self-conscious about these things, and I felt like I could not escape it. I couldn't escape the thought patterns. I couldn't escape the way that streaming was making me feel. And so I love streaming and I love my community, but I think during that time, I just literally just wanted to get out. I wanted to get out of everything and anything that reminded me of that person. And so I systematically started working towards undoing my channel, essentially. Around this time, I started getting sick with my medications. I did a whole vlog about it. If you're interested, here's the video. That still was the case. That was still what was going on as well. And I think a lot of it also had to do with what was going on, you know, at the back end of this ex relationship. You know, the health issues, I think a lot of that also had something to do with the stress of getting out of that relationship. Because even after we broke up, they were still a part of the channel for a little while, even after the fact. And it took me several months, even after breaking up, for me to completely cut ties with this person. And so it was very difficult during this time. And I'm really grateful and glad that during around the month of like the end of November to like January, basically, I decided to take a huge step back from everything content creator related, because if I hadn't, I think I still would have been on a downward spiral with everything going on. And I'm just grateful that I took that break, because I really needed it. I really took a step back and evaluated what I wanted, what made me happy, who was I as a person now that I wasn't being policed by someone who was controlling and insecure about themselves. And it felt good to slowly become myself again. It didn't happen overnight, obviously. I was still dealing with some other health issues, which again, here's another video if you're interested. It's about my food intolerances and stuff. I was dealing with that, you know, during the beginning of the year, this year. But I was finally able to start being myself. I started surrounding myself with some friends, and they really helped me pull out of that dark place that I was in. I met some amazing people through doing that, and I'm really grateful to them. I already mentioned that one of the reasons why I'm even doing this video is because I felt that it really impacted the stream in some way. But I also felt that it was really important to talk about my experience in an abusive relationship, so that if anyone else finds themselves in a similar situation, they know that they can get out of it, that there is a way out. You do deserve better. When I was in that relationship, it was very hard for me to see past the relationship, because I thought, well, because I'd pretty much been led to believe that this was the best relationship I was ever gonna have, and that I was so lucky to be in this relationship. There was a lot of things about this relationship that were not healthy. I've only mentioned a couple things, but it really came down to how controlling this person was. Literally did not want me going to my photographer, worried that I would cheat on my photographer and his wife, didn't want me hanging out with my moderators, didn't want me hanging out with any of my friends. If I was hanging out with my community, why, when I could just be spending time with them? And it was very suffocating. I just want to tell you, if you are in this sort of relationship, you need to reach out to someone. I reached out to a friend. I won't mention who they are, just because I want to respect their privacy as well. I wanted to know, you know, from their standpoint, as someone who wasn't necessarily like involved with who this person was or like what was going on, you know, is this healthy? Because in my heart of hearts, throughout the relationship, I had tried to leave so many times, but I had been convinced to stay so many times. I got convinced to stay, and it was so hard to let this person go. But taking this first step was really very powerful for me, and it allowed me to continue making steps to leaving this person. So some takeaways from this video, I guess. If you find yourself in a situation and in a relationship that you know in your heart of hearts is just not good, reach out to someone who you know you can trust, that you can talk to, and see if maybe they have an opinion on what's going on. I know it's hard, but it is important that you reach out to people and get some opinions on this situation, especially if they're non-biased, or in this case, you know, they just want the best for you. That's most important. I think it's really, really important that you do that. Again, I don't want to mention who this person is. If you know who they are, please don't go after them or look for them or tell them off or anything like that. I have not spoken to them in a while now. They are completely gone from my life and I want to keep it that way. I am currently working through a lot of the issues that I have developed from this relationship, but most importantly, I just really want to move past it. I really want to put it behind me, and I don't want to have to keep bringing it up. So I've decided that I wanted to make this vlog to just get it out there, get it out into the open, let everybody know this is what happened, this is what has been going on, and I just really want to move on from it. I think it's unhealthy to continue dwelling on the past in a way that I just don't like being a victim, really. That's, if you know me well enough to know that that's just not my vibe. I just don't go for that. It's important to think about the past, to know where to go forward from where you are, right? Your trajectory. And so I really want to focus more on how I can improve from this situation or how I can heal from this situation, rather than continuing to talk about how I was accused of cheating all the time, or how I was trained in a way to become more negative and suspecting of people and their like negative intentions and things like that. Like, I just want to move away from that and become a better person, and letting go of those parts of me that no longer serve me, and healing from the trauma that I had to go through during this time. One final note I do want to say, because when I started talking about this on stream, a lot of people reached out to me feeling extreme guilt for not knowing that this was going on. I just want you to be aware you didn't know it was going on because I didn't want you to know it was going on. It's not because you were a bad friend or anything like that. I just kept it hidden from you. So please, I don't want you all to feel like upset with yourselves because you didn't notice, especially if you've been around a long time in my channel. I don't want you to be beating yourselves up over it. Don't do that, please. You couldn't have known. I made sure that you wouldn't. I was just under surveillance the entire time, so I just didn't feel safe enough to talk about it like I do now. But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of what happened over the last several months to a year or so. So yeah, I only now feel comfortable and safe enough to start talking about what has happened and what had happened. If you are still here and you're watching this video, that really means a lot. I was very surprised to see so many people coming back to the Coven after everything that has happened, really, up until this point. It's been a wild ride, to say the least, but truthfully, if you have been a part of this journey for however long you have been here, it really means a lot to have you, especially during those times when you didn't even know it, but you were there for me, and I appreciate those of you who were. Thank you. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know a lot of people come into stream to tell me how much of an impact and how much help I am to them to get them through some hard times. I always like to tell people that it goes both ways. Y'all have helped me out a lot too, and so I feel like content creation is more than just a one-sided affair. So honestly, from the bottom of my undead heart, thank you. Thank you for watching this video, and thank you for being here for me. On a lighter note, things are much better for me overall. Like I said, I'm no longer in that relationship. I'm no longer speaking to that person. They are no longer in my life, nowhere near my life. Those of you who don't know, I've been studying to become a phlebotomist. If you don't know what a phlebotomist is, there's someone who takes fluids for testing purposes, most notably known for taking blood for blood tests. So, of course, the vampire, the phlebotomist, right? So I'm actually in the process of doing that. I just got my externship dates, which is great. I'll basically be working for a week at a location that they assign me. No pay, unfortunately, but I get to see how it works, see the ins and outs of the industry, and just kind of do shadowing in a way for figuring out how phlebotomy works overall. So I'm very excited. That will be in August. And sometime between now and then I have to get CPR certified, which I'm very excited. I've actually been wanting to do that for a while, so now I'm finally able to do that, and it'll be so much fun. I'll be going to visit family in June, like the end of June, beginning of July. I'll be visiting some family members out east coast. Woo-hoo. And then I'll also be going to Alabama to take a look around and see how I like it, look at the properties out there, because for those of you who don't know, I am actually planning on moving hopefully to Alabama in the next couple months. So I'm very excited. I can't wait to get things rolling for that. But all in all, things have been improving for me, and I have been able to move forward in life and really improve in all things in my life. We're rebuilding the stream. It was wonderful today to see so many people dropping in the stream today. I think we had like up to 50 people today, which was so nice to see so many familiar faces dropping by. And yeah, it's been wonderful. Honestly, things have been going really well. We've had so many people gifting gifts through our throne. We have a throne wish list for those of you who don't know. Check it out in my links. If you want to get me something, or if you just want to take a look at what I have on my wish list, it means a lot. You can also suggest gifts onto my throne as well. If you see something you're like, oh, VT would love this, you can suggest it to me and I'll look at it, and if I like it, I'll add it to the wish list as well. And yeah, I just appreciate everyone so much for their generosity. Things have been going really, really well for me. And honestly, I just can't be any more thankful than I already am. So if you've been around for however long you've been around for, thank you. It really means a lot. So in case you haven't heard it yet today, you are awesome and capable of more than you even realize. Just know that you are loved and appreciated, and just be safe. Take care of yourselves, please. Much love. Mwah.